Okay, so my old house, yeah, it had some things going on. It had a lot of things. I think that sometimes when something bad happens, sometimes certain energies are drawn back to that same space. I think it was one of those houses. So I only know about some of the stuff that happened there during the first year that I lived there. But suffice it to say, some bad stuff happened in that house. So it makes sense to me that sometimes there were certain energies around. But one of them that was a little more like distinct or like verifiable, because sometimes these things you can't really prove outside of your own feelings. Actually, even before that first year, I started feeling really afraid of the windows. I had this need to, how like curtains will fall like this, but there might be like cracks on either side where light can come through. I became increasingly obsessed over the years with keeping the house like dark, not for the sake of keeping it dark, but for the sake of covering up the windows. So I had this whole system where I would pull them all the way to the side and then out this way. So they came from under the overhang and out, and then I would cross the middle ones like this so that there was no crack in the middle, because I could feel myself being mocked. And laughed at. Not all the time, just occasionally. But when it happened, it was very like, and I felt, which I do feel about these things when this stuff comes by, we all have different, I think, powers or whatever within us. But I think for me, I can be a little bit more vulnerable to things that I'm actually more powerful than, only because of my fear. So I feel this need to control my fear response and to remain calm, because I think they feed off of that. They like fear. But yeah, I couldn't really figure it out, but I really didn't like it. One time in particular when I was coming up from my car. So for reference, this isn't me being like scared of like robbers or something, because our house was like insanely hard to find. Like our friends who would come over would sometimes even forget how to find us, even if they'd already been there. It's the back house, and there was this tree overhanging the driveway, which was a narrow driveway. So to get up to our house, you had to squeeze by our cars in this tandem driveway. Sometimes there were 2 or 3 cars just packed in. So you'd have to squeezy by them. And then you'd go under this like weird, spooky, weird tree. And then you'd go through these big iron gates. You'd have to unlock the gate and then go through, and then you could go up to my house. And while it was a 1-story house, but it had this like crawl space underneath. So actually your average person, even a very tall man, could not walk up to my house and peer in the windows. You'd have to stand on something. So if somebody wanted to watch me, it would be very difficult. Like they'd have to bring something with them or find something to stand on. It would be very noticeable if it was a person. One time in particular was really bad, and I felt like almost like I was in a movie or something. It was very strange, and I could feel like them noticing that I was coming up, and then I was running from my car and trying to unlock my door, and I could feel them, and then as soon as I got inside, I went, thank God. And there was this real sense that whatever they were, because I knew there was more than one, because I could hear them or feel them doing this, like conversational with each other, like mocking me together. So there was a sense that I developed of like, they can't get inside the house. And I also developed a sense that it was not because of me, but it was because of Chanel, who some of you guys know. And I've had other experiences with Chanel that have demonstrated that Chanel is a very powerful person. I'll just say that. But I didn't know that back then. So I just knew, why is it that Chanel is somehow preventing these things from getting inside? I just knew for some reason that their presence was protection for the house, even when they weren't home, but just by the fact of them living there. So then I was just feeling crazy for a couple years. And then Brandon came over one day. And then...
Well, you invited me over for a reason.
Did I invite you over because of that? Yeah. But
Take over from here?
Yeah. I will say, I know it can get so, it's a story. But I will say, I do feel like Brandon was very gentle with talking about these things with us. So I did appreciate that you weren't just like, there's something here. I did feel like you had a gentler approach. But yeah, you can.
All right. This is actually one of the stories that I wanted to talk about. So that works. So for those of you who don't know, I am very spiritually sensitive and have been my entire life. Seen both like physically seen, but also a sense of I can see something, but not really type of thing my whole life. And she's like, hey, you got to come over. And I said, okay. She's like, I just wanted to tell me what you think. And I said, okay, whenever I do things like this for people, I like for them to not say anything. Don't tell me like, oh, I think this is happening because I heard this is, I want to tell you what I think or what I feel. So she invited me over and she's like, hey, this is my new house. And I was like, oh, it's really pretty. It's nice. It's dope. And immediately I already felt energy like at the door as I was waiting for her to open it. So I was like, okay. I didn't say anything crazy in the beginning. I just said, okay, let's just have fun. So we had some drinks and we were just hanging out. And the whole time I felt this energy of two spirits, a guy and a girl. I could feel it was a guy and a girl. And throughout the night, I feel like they were trying to make themselves known, like to me, but I didn't want, like she said, I wasn't going to be like, hey, Amanda, there's something right there. The whole time I don't want to scare her. So I was just like, oh, okay. So we had fun. And then it was late at night, probably like midnight or 1 in the morning. And I was like, yeah, I got to go home. And she's like, okay, it's a final verdict. What do you think? Do you want to know? Because no one wants to know that their house is haunted. Nobody's gonna be like, hey, yeah, Camilo, yeah, your house is pretty fucking haunted. Yeah, like, bye, have a good night. Like, that sucks. So I was like, do you really want to know? And she's, yeah. And I said, okay, do you want to know everything or just a yes or no? And she's, I just want to know I want to know everything. I said, I don't know which room was hers or anything. I just came in the living room. I said, okay, there are two. It's a guy and a girl. They're not human. And I don't know whose room that is in the front. I said, but there's a window right there. And they like fuck with you. And both her and Chanel were there. And they were like, and I looked at each other. I said, don't say anything. I want to finish. And then you guys tell me everything. But I said, they're very mischievous. They like do things on purpose. They do things to scare you. They won't really do things to you. They'll do things to scare you, if that makes sense. They won't hurt you, but they might like bang on the window when you're standing right here, or they might knock on the door when you're home alone, or things like that. And I was like, so it's interesting. I was like, but they're very mischievous and they're very much so in the window a lot of the time and near that bush that was next to her window. So I was like, yeah, I don't know how else to explain it. And I said, but they're almost kind of like childish. And I was like, they like giggle, laugh. It's like a giggle, like when they do things just to see what you would do. So I said, I feel like they move things, but not a lot. But if this was something, it would be like, just enough for you to be like, did that just move? But not completely fly at your face. So after I finished, they both said, look, I hear knocking on the window at all hours of the night. Or I hear little kids laughing. And Amanda said, I very specifically remember she said, I hear kids laughing and I just tell myself that they're kids playing in the street. And I was like, when do you hear this? And she's like, 2, 3, 4 a.m. And I was like, and those are just the kids playing in the street. And she's like, that's what I tell myself so I could go to sleep. And I was like, oh. So I was like talking about that. And then Chanel was like, yeah, sometimes the dishes rumble in the cupboards. They like jiggle. And I was like, yeah, that's them just trying to say, ha ha ha, like I'm trying to scare you. And I opened the door to leave. No joke. There was literally 2 black figures in the door. But in her door, she has a little window, like a little mini window, like
really
this
small.
Big. It's almost like they were peering in it because I was right there at the front door. So as I was opening it, I was like, it's really good seeing you. And they were right there. And they went running away. And I literally was like, do I tell you? And they were like, what'd you see? What'd you see? Just tell us what you. And I was like, I literally just saw them. There were these 2 black human-like figures, but not human, but human. And they were right there in front of the door, like trying to listen to what we're saying or peering in. So that I will never forget. That's for sure. Definitely happened. It was really creepy.
But yeah, I will say they weren't like, I was never in any danger. It was just, they were, like Brandon said, mischievous, but it did feel a little antagonistic. And it was also confusing because I was also experiencing other things at that house. So when you're experiencing multiple things at once, it just can feel a little bit scarier than it maybe actually really is.
When you said started moving the dishes, I was like, damn, they started washing dishes for you?
Yeah.
Yeah, minor inconvenience.
Yeah.
It's like the whole thing. I was like, they would
I'm
move
like, go
things.
for it, please.
It would be like from here
to
be here.
Bring those ghosts over here.
Just like we were talking about the minor inconveniences, it's just us going in there, just like inconveniencing Amanda.
Just me taking all her batteries.
Just me and Diego in like an all black spandex suit, just staring over.
Loosening a
CD, so
loosening a light bulb.
Oh no, they're washing my dishes. Oh no,
Oh,
they're
no.
doing my laundry. Oh,
Putting
no.
Dawn on it for you. Oh no.
Oh no, is that a
Oh
pen
no,
on
my
my
laundry's being done.
Oh
Brett.
no, they're finally putting up that shelf I wanted to
And
put
they
up
feed
9
off of
months
fear,
ago.
so you got to act really scared. You have to be like, I'm
Oh,
so
that's
terrified
true.
of clean
Oh my god, I'm
dishes.
so terrified. I hope they don't put on my Christmas tree.
I'm
and take it down
so
for me.
scared of doing my taxes.
I hope they don't do that list of chores I was doing for.
Oh my god, I hope they don't put money in my bank account. Oh.
That would be actually a pretty great bit.